Cowboys Nation, buckle up because we're about to break down something absolutely massive. The Dallas Cowboys depth chart just got a major shakeup after minicamp, and what we're seeing right now could completely change how this team looks come September. If you want daily Cowboys updates, breaking news, and insider analysis before anyone else, smash that subscribe button right now and turn on those notifications because you do not want to miss what's coming next. All right, let's dive right into this because there is so much to unpack here, and honestly, some of these position battles are going to define whether Dallas makes a deep playoff run or falls short again. We're going to go position by position, and I'm telling you, there are some legitimate competitions happening that could shock a lot of people. This isn't just your typical offseason speculation. We're talking about real battles that coaches are monitoring every single day. Let's start where everything begins, at the quarterback position. Obviously, Dak Prescott is your unquestioned starter. There's zero debate there. Dak is the franchise, he's the leader, and he's the guy who's going to determine how far this team goes. But here's where it gets interesting. The backup quarterback spot is legitimately up for grabs between Trey Lance and Cooper Rush. Actually, wait, I'm hearing it's between Sam Howell and Joe Milton, which makes this even more intriguing. These two guys have been rotating with the second-team offense, and from everything we're hearing out of minicamp, it's essentially 2A and 2B. One day Milton is running with the twos, the next day Howell gets that opportunity. Here's the thing about Joe Milton that a lot of people don't realize. This kid came from Tennessee where the offensive system was absolutely nothing like what the NFL runs. The learning curve for him has been steeper than Dallas initially expected. They thought he'd pick things up faster, but the transition from that college offense to Mike McCarthy's system has required more development time. That said, Milton has an absolute cannon for an arm and the physical tools you just can't teach. Meanwhile, Sam Howell actually has real NFL game experience. He's been out there, he's taken snaps that matter, and he understands what it takes to run an offense at this level. So you've got this classic battle of ceiling versus floor. Milton has the higher upside with that rocket arm and athleticism, but Howell provides you with a safer, more experienced option. The question becomes, how close does Milton's upside get to Howell's proven floor? That answer will determine who backs up Dak Prescott this season. Now let's move to the running back room, and this is where things get really spicy. Rico Dowdle and Hunter Luepke, those guys are locks to make the roster, no question there. But after that, you've got Malik Davis, Deuce Vaughn, and a couple of intriguing young players fighting for maybe two spots and potentially a practice squad position. The real battle everyone should be watching is for that RB2 spot. Malik Davis is the incumbent. He literally came off the street last year and earned a role through hard work and production. But then you've got Deuce Vaughn, that explosive second-year player who brings a dimension this offense desperately needs. Vaughn can make people miss in a phone booth. He's got home run ability. And if he's locked in mentally and physically, he could be a game changer. There's also another power back in the mix who's more of a traditional downhill runner. The ideal scenario for Cowboys fans is that Deuce Vaughn has a breakout. The kid has done everything right off the field. He's put in the work, and he brings that explosive element that makes defenses worry. The power back option is a bit redundant when you already have guys who can pound it between the tackles, but if he shows value on special teams, he could still carve out a role. Don't sleep on Malik Davis, though. A lot of people are undervaluing him right now, but this dude proved he belongs. He wasn't supposed to make the team, and he ended up contributing. That kind of guy doesn't just disappear. Wide receiver is where we have an absolute logjam of talent and bodies. CeeDee Lamb is obviously your number one. Then you've got Brandon Cooks. Jalen Tolbert has shown flashes, and Kevontae Turpin brings that return ability and speed element. After those top four guys, it's completely wide open, and I mean completely. You've got a bunch of veterans and young players all competing for maybe 2 or 3 spots. Jonathan Mingo was actually a significant investment as a 4th-round pick acquisition, so he's got a real shot. Marquez Valdez-Scantling could fit if he can prove he's valuable on special teams as a gunner. Then you've got Tyler Scott, David Durden, various undrafted rookies, and even some 7th-round picks who aren't guaranteed anything. Dallas has shown they'll cut their late-round picks if they don't perform, so nobody should feel safe. Here's what makes this battle even more interesting. The Cowboys are going to want to evaluate their backup quarterbacks in the preseason, right? They're not playing their starters much. So that means we could see the offense slinging the ball 40 times in preseason games with Milton and Howell throwing to all these, bubble receivers. That's going to create opportunities for guys to separate themselves. Special teams ability is going to be absolutely crucial for that 5th and 6th receiver spot. If you can't contribute on special teams, you better be an absolute monster at receiver because roster spots are too valuable. Tight end is a position where Jake Ferguson has firmly established himself as the guy. Ferguson broke out last year, and he's clearly the TE1. But behind him, it's a genuine competition. Luke Schoonmaker was a second-round pick, so you'd think he's safe, but Brevin Spanford has been turning heads. Spanford is actually a better blocker than Schoonmaker from what evaluators are saying. And in Dallas's system, you need tight ends who can move people in the run game. Then you've got a couple of undrafted rookies who are trying to make noise. The question is whether one of these younger guys can actually push Schoonmaker down the depth chart or even off the roster entirely. That would be a stunning development for a recent second-round pick. But if someone emerges as legitimately better, Dallas can't ignore that. Princeton Fant has been hanging around on the practice squad and might offer some hybrid fullback tight end value. This is going to be fascinating to watch in training camp. The offensive line is always crucial, and Dallas just lost Matt Hennessy to a season-ending injury, which is unfortunate. Your starting five is pretty much set with Tyler Guyton at left tackle, Tyler Smith at left guard, whoever wins the center battle, Zach Martin at right guard, and Terrence Steele at right tackle. But here's a battle that's been really interesting. Tyler Guyton was supposed to be the unquestioned starter at left tackle after they drafted him, but Nate Thomas and Drew Shelton have actually been rotating at the backup tackle spots on both sides. Now, some people are reading into this and wondering if there's a real competition for the starting left tackle job. Honestly, I don't think that's what's happening here. What Dallas is doing is figuring out who their swing tackle is going to be. They want to know if both Thomas and Shelton can play left tackle and right tackle, because versatility is incredibly valuable on your offensive line. The gap between Guyton and those backup options is probably bigger than the gap between Thomas and Shelton, which is why they're both getting reps. Still, it's worth monitoring, because if Guyton struggles, they need to know who can step in. Let's flip to defense, starting with the edge rushers, and this is where Dallas has some serious star power, but also some serious questions. Micah Parsons is obviously your best player on the entire defense, possibly the entire team. He's a game wrecker, a defensive player of the year candidate every single season, and the foundation of this defense. DeMarcus Lawrence is still here, providing veteran leadership and production. Sam Williams is a guy I have some concerns about, but he's probably going to make the roster. After that, it's a battle royale. James Houston might be the best pure pass rusher of the backup group. He's got that quick twitch ability, and he can get after the quarterback. Then you've got a versatile option who can play off-ball linebacker and edge, which makes him incredibly valuable in different packages. If he's your fifth edge and your sixth linebacker, that's a role that can really help your roster flexibility. Charles Snowden just signed a 2-year deal, though it's basically all non-guaranteed money because of restricted free agency rules. He had some off-field stuff in Vegas that teams were concerned about, but if he's locked in and focused, he might have the best chance of any newcomer to make this roster. There are also some other young guys trying to make noise, but their path is going to require dominant preseason performances. The interior defensive line got a massive upgrade with the additions of some veteran pieces, and this is where Cowboys fans should be really excited. Like, your top two guys are going to eat up blockers and create opportunities for Micah Parsons and others to make plays. Behind them, you've got Osa Odigizua, who's been steady, and then a bunch of guys competing for that 3 technique and nose tackle depth. Jonathan Harrell fits the scheme really well and can play multiple positions along the line. His contract isn't that different from some of the other depth pieces, so Dallas won't hesitate to play him if he's better. What I really like is the competition here. Nobody is just handed a role. You've got veterans, you've got young players, and everyone is going to have to earn their spot. Linebacker might be the biggest question mark on this entire defense, and that's saying something. DeMarvion Overshone looked incredible before his injury last year, and everyone is hoping he can pick up where he left off. Eric Kendricks was brought in to be a stabilizing force. Damone Clark has shown flashes, but also some inconsistency. The battle everyone should be watching is who gets the green dot, which means who's calling the defensive plays and adjustments. Yeah, that's essentially your quarterback of the defense, and ideally it's DeMarvion Overshone because he has the athleticism and football IQ to be special in that role. But what if he's not ready? What if the coaching staff decides it's too much for him right now? Do they give it to Kendricks, who has more experience? Do they stick with Clark? And if none of these guys really grab hold of that role, does Dallas consider bringing in another veteran? That's a legitimate question, and it could shape how this defense performs. Behind the top 3, you've got some young linebackers and special teams guys trying to make the roster, but those battles are secondary to figuring out who's running the defense. Cornerback is loaded with new faces and competition, which is exactly what Dallas needed after some rough performances last year. Trevon Diggs is back and healthy, and when he's on his game, he's one of the best ball-hawking corners in the NFL. Darren Bland had an incredible season and proved he's a legitimate starter. Beyond those two, it's a ton of competition. Kalen Carson was a draft pick who has intriguing tools. Jordan Lewis brings veteran experience and versatility. There are multiple new additions fighting for backup roles and that critical nickel corner spot. One battle I'm really watching is whether Kalen Carson can win a significant role or if the veteran options end up getting more trust. Carson has the physical tools you want, and if the coaching staff can develop him, he could be a steal. But development takes time, and Dallas needs guys who can contribute right now. The depth here is night and day compared to last year, and that's going to be crucial for a defense that had way too many blown coverages. Safety is anchored by Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson, both of whom are established starters. Behind them, there's competition for depth roles and special teams spots. One guy just signed specifically to be a core special teams contributor, and while he wasn't great when he had to play actual defense last year, that's okay for now. But what if one of the younger, cheaper options can beat him out? That would be huge for roster flexibility and long-term planning. Special teams has Brandon Aubrey, who might genuinely be the best kicker in the NFL right now. The dude is automatic and has a massive leg. Brian Anger is back as the punter, and he's been solid. Trent Sieg is your long snapper. Kavontae Turpin is the primary return man, but the big question is, who's the backup if something happens to Turpin? They've been giving reps to multiple guys in practice, and honestly, it would be ideal if someone like Deuce Vaughn could develop into that role because of his explosiveness. So there you have it, Cowboys Nation. This roster has legitimate competition at almost every position, and that's exactly what you want heading into training camp. The cream will rise to the top, and by September, Dallas should have a roster that's deeper and more talented than what we saw last year. Make sure you drop a comment and let me know which position battle you're most excited about. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button, turn on notifications, and let's ride with America's team all season long.